Who wants to play a simple game of Mafia? Such an insignificant phrase, yet such intentional malice held within. Malice well disguised in innocence. I was at my best friend Monica's house for her 16th birthday. It was planned to contain festivities that would take place in her sprawling backyard. Unfortunately, a summer thunderstorm intruded on our fun times. We all had to stay inside to avoid becoming drenched. Moping around, we silently grieved the loss of fun memories. At the party, there was Monica and me, of course, but there were 8 more. Jacob, a kind, popular kid. Avery, a shy, introverted nerd. Haley, a loud, boisterous girl. Kendon, a hilarious but extremely smart guy. He's also my other best friend. Gabe, who's an egotistical jerk. I have no idea how Monica can even stand him. Damara, a very pretty but very honest and humble girl. Lillian, Monica's awesome cousin, and Damien, Monica's very outspoken crush. Monica's older sister, Ava, came downstairs to observe what we were doing, which was absolutely nothing. Seeing us acting upset, she decided to cheer us up with a game. Who wants to play a simple game of Mafia? Mafia was her specialty. She crafted clever, entertaining stories and creative deaths. Whenever we couldn't experience the outdoors, she would gather us up and narrate the game for us. Those of us who've played along with her before immediately nodded enthusiastically. Monica convinced the others quickly, and Mafia was underway. The 10 of us gathered in a circle, and Ava stood on the outer edge of the shape. Before I continue, let me give you a rundown of the game. So there's 2 different types of people, townspeople and Mafia. The Mafia's goal is to kill all the townspeople, and the townspeople's goal is to lynch all the Mafia. Within the townspeople, there are 3 roles: doctor, who can heal people; detective, who can investigate a person's role; and civilian, who doesn't have an ability. Actions and abilities are performed during the night. During the day, after nighttime, people are voted up to the chopping block to be killed. If you believe they're guilty, you vote them up. Last team standing wins. Ava announces, "Okay, so there's going to be 3 Mafia, 1 doctor, and 1 detective. Everyone, heads down. I'm going to assign roles. If you look, you're disqualified." Giddily, our heads tilted down in anticipation of a role. Everybody's mind filled with the hopes of becoming Mafia, the best and most exciting role in the game. The thrill of watching others turn against each other because of your work is almost euphoric. Ava slowly walked around in the circle, announcing a role and tapping heads to assign them. On detective, I felt a slight pressure on my scalp. It wasn't my favorite role, but it was better than civilian. When she finished, she returned to her position. "It's nighttime. Everyone keep your heads down. Mafia, wake up." I tensed, hoping I wouldn't be the first to go out. The worst part of the game was when you had to watch everything unfold without you. She ordered them to put their heads back down and repeated the process with the doctor and me. I raised my head and eyed everyone suspiciously. Before I chose someone, Ava caught my attention. Something was amiss about her. I couldn't place my finger on it, but it was a gut feeling. A sense of doom settled over me like a fog. Nothing felt right, but I played it cool, figuring my imagination just ran wild. I settled upon Kendon, wanting to make sure I can trust one of my favorite people. Ava shook her head. Good. I let my head drop again, and Ava spoke up. "Everyone wake up." We all glanced warily at each other, wondering who was the first to be a victim and who were the perpetrators. Ava started her monologue. "Late at night, a group of teens arrived in a random city to spend the weekend partying and hanging out. But there were a few among them planning to backstab them. They set to work laying out their plan until they had it just right. After everyone had passed out from exhaustion in their hotel rooms, the Mafia crept into someone's room." Her hands danced through the air, her eyes reflected her words, painting a story across the canvas of our imagination. It was an enthralling experience watching her move. They stalked up to the bed where she lay. One of them raised a knife high into the air and plunged it into her stomach. She was stabbed multiple times until she eventually bled out. That person was... Ava was cut off by a scream. Lillian? Are you okay? I looked over and saw Lillian's hunched-over frame, her wavy black hair hiding her face from view. A cough racked her body and blood-laced spittle hit the carpet. Exclamations arose from everyone except Ava, who was eerily calm. Monica hurried over to her cousin's side to help her stand. Lillian gave almost no effort as she collapsed on shaky legs immediately. Her stomach became exposed to us, and what I saw made me wish she fell face down. A bloom of crimson formed on her sweater near her gut, as if she was stabbed. Blood dribbled out of her mouth like a small waterfall. She twitched slightly on the ground, death throes consuming her muscles. Panic consumed everyone as we struggled to escape, but we couldn't move. We were rooted on the spot. Monica sat down with grace, even as her face displayed the raw grief she was feeling. Our limbs were being controlled like we were marionettes under the control of a puppet master. I looked at Kendon and stared at his face, reading his expression. He was as shocked and horrified as I was. In fact, no one looked like they had a whisper of an idea of what the hell just happened. Ava called for our attention by clearing her throat. 9 fear-filled pupils landed upon her angelic face. I realized what was wrong about her appearance. Her eyes were filled with a deep evil that I had not seen before, buried beneath a false facade. Oh, I'm sorry about that, guys. Did I forget to tell you about the little twist I added? We stared at her incredulously. What did she mean by a twist? Damien was the first to speak up. A twist? A twist? You call killing someone a twist? Ava chuckled. I mean, you didn't expect it, did you? So what? Your twist is that if we die in the game, we die in real life? It was Haley that spoke up this time. Ava grinned at her accusation. Well, look at you! The dumb little one actually has a brain! Haley struggled against her ethereal restraints and cursed at our captor. What if we don't kill anyone? What if we do nothing? Monica recovered enough control to utter a few shaky sentences. Well, then you all die. You have to participate. One team has to win. You just gotta be willing to kill your friends to survive. Those words chilled my bones with the power of 1,000 Arctic nights. To survive, I have to kill people I've known my entire life? A heart-stopping thought entered my mind. My life wasn't in my own hands. It was in theirs. My life could be cut short by one decision. Sweat dripped out of every pore. I could trust nobody, so I have to play it safe. Looking guilty can lead to my demise. Let's get things back on track. So, who are you voting up to the chopping block? Ava asked. Her question snapped me back to reality. I don't think we should vote anyone yet, Avery said, since we don't have enough evidence to convict anyone. Most of us nodded in denial. None of us wanted to believe the insane reality we were placed into. Gabe, on the other hand, had a different idea. I think we should whittle everyone down. Keep on voting someone until we finally kill the Mafia. And what, kill more people than necessary? Damien snapped. God, you're such a jerk. As long as I survive, which of course I will, I'm going to do anything to survive. This raised more arguing and questioning of morals. Gabe was not necessarily right in his beliefs, but if we wanted to leave, we would have to murder. I almost threw up my lunch at the mere thought of homicide. Multiple times, Ava called for our attention, but no attention was given, until she shrieked in an inhuman voice, "Shut up!" The group immediately stopped and quivered in fear at her menacing presence. Okay, thank you. Everyone go to sleep. Now, ordered Ava. We relived the cycle of the night. When it became my turn to detect, I chose Jacob. He was uncharacteristically quiet. Usually he was cracking jokes and cracking up. However, he was unnervingly silent. Ava stared at me with her ancient eyes and nodded, her gaze making me shudder. I didn't want to kill Jacob, but I hardened my resolve. I had to save as many friends as I could. He was trying to survive like I was, but I valued my life more right now. My head sank slowly and my eyes shut. Time to wake up, shouted Ava. As our heads raised cautiously, she weaved an elaborate story. The 9 remaining teens woke up with a text from Lillian. It read, "I don't feel good. Go on without me." So they did. They planned to take an Uber to their destination, but there was only 7 people in the car. 2 of them decided to stay behind. One was Mafia. After the van drove off, the Mafia took the other person into an alley and slit her throat. A scarlet smile opened on Avery's throat. Blood gushed out of the open wound and stained the front of her t-shirt. She toppled backwards and her fresh corpse stared at the ceiling. Avery was murdered. I've always seen death depicted in movies, but I never expected a soul to get snatched so suddenly from a body. In a blink of the eye, it dissipated like dew under the rising sun. More sobs arose from the others. Kendon let out a frustrated scream. Why? Why are you doing this, Ava? Because it's fun to see you guys panic and turn against one another. His intense glare was so full of hatred, I'm surprised his glasses didn't shatter. Ava raised her hands defensively. Hey, don't get mad at me. You guys are the ones killing each other. I'm just following orders. So is it time to kill another person? Huh, Ava? Haley snarked. Damara piped up. I really don't want to do this. This is so messed up. A sob escaped her mouth. The cry sounded like a wounded animal wailing for help. I needed to end this as soon as possible, so I played my hand. Jacob has been suspiciously quiet this whole game, I accused. He hasn't said a word, which is not like him. He doesn't seem too upset over the deaths of our friends. He defended. No, that's not it. I'm just shocked right now. It's just so much to take in. But you do seem like you're taking it fairly well, agreed Haley. More back and forth conversation of accusations and defense ensued. Eventually, Ava cut us off. So who wants to vote Jacob up on the chopping block? Haley, Kendon, Monica, and I voted for him. Gabe, Damara, and Damien did not. Do you want to vote for anyone else? Jacob pointed an accusatory finger at me. She attacked me straight away. That's pretty weird, right? No one listened to his statements. He was already condemned. Please, no! You guys are making a mistake! I'm not evil! It's Bailey! Please! He pleaded. Ava looked at Jacob hungrily. She even licked her lips. After committing the gruesome act of disposing Avery's body, Jacob began to walk out of the alley. However, his escape was interrupted by a mugger. Desperately, Jacob attempted to run away and then BAM! She roared. I attempted to look away, but I wasn't quick enough. A gaping hole was blown into his forehead, bits of shattered bone and bloody brains flying out. A few chunks splattered onto my face, and I hastily wiped them away. Jacob is dead. Silence followed. What could we say? Oh, I'm so happy a friend just died. Well, I could see Gabe saying that. Soon after the shock of the carnage wore off, Damara asked timidly, So, what was he? Ava took her sight off of Jacob's body and lazily turned towards her. Mafia, she said. She turned back to studying the oozing tunnel in his cranium. Ava was the most disturbing and unnerving part of a very disturbing and unnerving game, and that's saying something. A silence permeated the atmosphere, letting us all sink into our conscience and reflect on our choices. Ava's inspection took a few minutes to complete, and then we were back to being ordered to fall asleep. During the night, I had to investigate again. You would think the repetitiveness would get boring or old, but the rush that comes with uncovering a role always refreshes the thrill of a game. This time, I chose Damara. I had the feeling she was acting like a civilian, but in reality was a mafia. She was a thespian, so she had experience in assuming different personas. I trusted my gut feeling about Jacob, so I planned to follow my gut feeling about her. A confirmation was given by the slight nod of Ava's head. 2 down, 1 to go. A new day dawned, and the bloody storyline continued. Wanting to make things quick and easy for themselves, the Mafia decided to get rid of someone who has been on their tail for a while. Later that night at a nightclub, the Mafia member and victim traveled to a secluded corner and started a conversation. When the victim wasn't looking, the Mafia member wrapped their arms around the victim's neck and began to strangle them. At this moment, my breath started to come in small gasps. It felt like my throat had tightened up. Each breath carried less oxygen into my lungs until none arrived. Choking, I tumbled on the ground. I clawed helplessly at my throat as darkness enclosed my thoughts. The last thing I saw was Ava's irises hungrily staring at me like a delicious meal about to be devoured. Muddled voices floated around me, lost in the darkness of the void. I felt lightheaded and delirious, as if I just ran a 2-mile sprint. My body lightly rocked back and forth while I drifted through the abyss. However, my peacefulness couldn't stay forever. The rocking became more aggressive, the din of the voices grew louder, and the darkness brightened. The sight of a ceiling fan greeted me. I groaned and rolled over and froze. The sight of Avery's lifeless sockets gazed back. I gasped and attempted to roll away, but I failed to move far, my strength still returning. As I lay panting on the carpeted floor, Ava's voice crescendoed in my ears. Her and performed CPR on her. She was rescued by the doctor. Bailey survived. Her words slammed into me like a freight train. I'm still alive. I have a second chance. I didn't... A painful kick to my ribcage jolted me. The breath was once again stolen from my lungs. This time, in a different manner. Get up, you! You're not dead yet, so act like it. Ava's horrific voice spurred me into sitting back up in my original position. There was no incentive like a pissed-off teen screeching at you. Resuming a calmer state, she urged us onto the next task. Even though I had survived, we still had to fill her bloodlust through the chopping block. She didn't order us this time. We already knew the drill. It was time for another death. Who would want to kill Bailey, huh? Asked Haley. Gabe spoke up, saying, "All I know is that it wasn't me." He splayed his hands in the air. "I'm innocent. I'm an angel. I wouldn't harm a fly." Kendon narrowed his eyes. "But didn't you say earlier that you didn't care who died as long as you survived? And you and Bailey did have an argument earlier." Gabe opened his mouth to retort, but I cut him off before any more drama arose. "Hey, just stop! I need to come clean right now before we accuse anyone of being evil. I'm the detective." Damara gasped. "But why would you say that? Now you're in danger." "And why should we trust you? What if you're lying?" Monica said. Before I could defend myself, Damien spoke up. "She was right about Jacob. She might not be lying." "I'm not saying I'm doubting her," said Damara, "but I just feel terrible that she potentially put her life on the line for us." I've had enough of Damara's act of being a poor, caring victim. She has manipulated people before, mainly boyfriends, to get her own way. It's time for her to finally cut the crap. Okay, Damara, you know what? Shut up! You're Mafia, so stop acting like you care about me putting myself in danger. I can practically see the angry fire in your eyes that your attempt to off me didn't work. What? No, she spluttered. "I do care. I don't want anyone to die." Haley muttered, "That's what a Mafia member would say." Her lighthearted attempt to lighten the tension didn't work. Honestly, nothing could lighten the mood that clouded the room. Kendon replied, "I think we should listen to Bailey. She was right about Jacob, and Damara didn't vote for him either." He sent an accusatory glance in her direction. "Well, neither did Gabe or Damien, and aren't they still alive?" Damara explained. Her tone wasn't defensive or angry. She was just stating the facts. A tense silence filled the room until I raised my hand. Every gaze fell onto my palm. I know what I'm talking about, and I know what I'm doing. If the rest of you want to survive, you better listen. Kendon was the first, followed closely by Haley, Gabe, and Monica. Oddly enough, Damien didn't vote for her. He doesn't talk much, but when he does, he makes everything way more confusing than it needs to be. Damara's victim complex fell when she realized her fate. Well, crap. You caught on. I tried to disguise myself, but maybe I tried too hard. I don't want to die. Just make sure people hear about what happened tonight. And we are all just trying to survive. I don't blame any of you, and I hope you guys don't either. Her head hung low and tears dropped down her cheeks. Slow clapping resounded like a thunderstorm had condensed the room. Ava chuckled as we cowered from the volume. Bravo! What a moving performance. You almost brought a tear to my eye. Almost. Thank you for distracting them long enough for me to think of a perfect way to off you. Just get it over with. Damara spat out, teeth gritting. Finally, someone is eager to hear a story. So, after she slipped away from the scene of the crime, Damara exited the building. The bouncer saw her escaping as a report of an attempted murder was broadcast over his walkie-talkie. He chased after her, trying to flag her down. As she glanced over her shoulder to look at him, she stumbled into heavy traffic. She ran straight in front of a van, and it hit her like she was a bug on a windshield. Her organs were crushed, and as the car ran over her, Her neck snapped. A sickening crackle emitted from her spine, her head twisting almost 180 degrees. Damara is dead. She was Mafia. Being immune to death was a feeling I was getting used to. But it wasn't something I was comfortable with. Feeling numb is usually a comfort when someone is in pain, yet for me, I only feel emptiness. Only one Mafia left. Good luck. Ava didn't direct who she was wishing good luck upon, she just left it ambiguous. Nightfall descended on us. We had a good chance of surviving the Mafia with 5 against 1. But to save the most I could, I needed to choose the right person. I did a mental check of everything I observed from everyone, tracking down who seemed like the most likely candidate. While I was pondering who could be the last person standing in the way of my freedom, an ear-splitting shriek pierced my ear. No cheating! A wet, squishing noise invaded my ears while Damien's screams filled the silence, both quickly cut off, leaving the thump of my heart the only thing I heard. After a few moments of rest, Ava spoke up again. You filthy wretch! You tried to cheat by peeking at the Mafia. You probably thought I wouldn't see, but I allow no cheaters in my game. So I took the very tools from you that you used to cheat. She spat on his desecrated corpse. I could only imagine what happened to him. Sadly, I knew he just drew his last breath. When it was my turn to detect, I caught a glimpse of Ava's bloodied thumbs. Damien's body, thankfully, faced the opposite direction of me. I blocked the image out of my mind and got working. I decided to go for Gabe. Maybe it was my bias against him. Maybe my gut feeling was ringing true for the 3rd time. All I knew is that he seemed suspicious. Yet I came back with an answer I didn't expect. He was innocent. Then who was it? Waking up, I looked hard at everyone. I could save 3, hopefully 4. If everything went for the best, I just needed to have time to think. Ava sighed, catching our attention. Listen up. I'm gonna keep this one short and simple, okay? Silence. Good. This person witnessed Bailey being strangled. After she was saved, he ran outside to call the police. While he wasn't looking, the last Mafia member snuck up behind him. They picked up a pipe strewn on the floor and bludgeoned him in the head with it. A dent formed in Gabe's head, knocking him to his knees. Blood trickled out, his eyes crossed. His eyes reached mine, simultaneously sending out a plea for help and what I think was an apology. For what, I wasn't exactly sure. He was repeatedly bashed in the head until it was an unrecognizable pulp. Gabe, the doctor, is dead. Blood oozed out of what remained of his caved-in skull. With Gabe gone, it left only Haley and Monica as the remaining suspects. I decided this catastrophe needed to end right now, so I got right to the punch. So I know Kendon is innocent, and I'm innocent. It's just you 2 left, I said, motioning to the other girls. Defend yourselves. I hoped Monica was innocent. Haley was such a loyal friend, but Monica was my best friend. Since preschool, we've been inseparable. I just hoped beyond hope it didn't come down to her. Haley kicked it off. Let me start off with this. I have always had your back this entire game. I have defended you against Gabe's douchebagginess, against Damara's claims, against everything else. If I was Mafia, why would I try so hard to help you? To gain our trust? Kendon skeptically offered. I mean, both of you voted both times for the Mafia, I said. One of you betrayed your teammates, hoping to not seem suspicious to the rest of us. I'm sorry if I've been silent, but I'm still just shocked over Lillian's death. It's just... Monica's voice trailed off. Also, why would I try to kill my best friend? To survive like the rest of us, duh, Haley said, exasperated. This remark sent the two into a squabble about all they had done to prove their innocence. Though they stopped after Kendon yelled, "Enough! Both of you are equally suspicious." He turned to me. "I just think we need to go off on our gut instinct and choose. Arguing will get no one nowhere." Looking into his eyes, I think we both knew who to choose. No matter how much it pained us to condemn a friend. I nodded. "Let's vote," I replied, voice quivering. "Ava?" Kendon called.
"Yes?"
Ava answered. I think we know who we're voting for." She just smiled, that hungry smile. Kendon turned back to the two and raised his hand. "Monica, Her eyes widened as her fate settled on her.
"No, please,"
she squeaked. She turned to face me. "Bailey, don't." I couldn't face her. I couldn't see the betrayal in her appearance. "I'm so sorry." My hand was so low you could barely count it as raising it. But it still did the job. Ava took the cue to spin a new tale.
The last 3 remaining survivors banded together after they realized Monica was gone. They tracked her down and kidnapped her, binding her legs and wrists. They took her to a forest outside of the city and dragged her into the woods. Taking matters into their own hands, they tied a noose around her neck. Then, they threw the other end of the rope over a tree branch. Saying their final goodbyes, they began to lynch Monica.
Monica reached for her neck as wheezes escaped her mouth. A red line formed on her neck where the imaginary rope would be, and blood rushed to her head as she struggled for oxygen. She let out a strangled cry.
"Look, ice!"
I relented to her request, tears blurring my vision. I knew the pain she was in. I went through it myself. Except this time there was no one to save her. We locked gazes. I could almost feel the strangulation I already experienced. Blood vessels had already burst in her eyes, giving them a dull, ruby-colored sheen. Her face turned into a violent shade of violet. She whispered one last word to me. "Forgive." Her hands fell limp at her sides. The floor shook from the impact of her tumbling down. I felt my shoulders heaving, my body quaking. I realized I was sobbing. I let it all loose, not holding back the wave of emotions that swelled over me. Fear, rage, sorrow, relief. Muffled voices filled the background. People scrambled toward me, pulling me up and away from the gruesome scene. We fled out of the house and down the street. Everything after that was a blur. Later, I was told we ran across the street to a neighbor's house to call the police. When they investigated the house, they found all 7 mutilated bodies, plus 1. Ava was confirmed brain dead at the scene, but there were no signs of bodily harm or poison. It was like her brain shut off after we left the house. They wrote the whole crime off as unexplainable and never disclosed any information to the public. I'm attending the funeral service tomorrow, held for all 8 victims. Yes, I am counting Ava as a victim, because that night, that wasn't her. Something possessed her, perverted her mind, something otherworldly. I should feel somewhat relieved since I survived and that thing is gone. Yet something isn't settling right with me. The night after the horror finished, I shared a dream, or a nightmare, with Haley and Kendon. In it, a twisted version of Ava stood over us. She uttered 2 sentences that leaves me horrified to ever close my eyes again.
"The game isn't over yet." It's only just begun.